Belief and the law, standing strong, standing tall. From the roots to the rules, we uncover it all. Truth and justice, the plan's divine. CannaBama's here, it's education time.
This is more than just a house. This is a hemp home. And what's happening here is a revolution in construction. Imagine building homes that clean the air, regulate temperature naturally, and last for generations. That's the power of hemp. Hemp lime construction, also known as hempcrete, is a mixture of hemp hurd and lime powder. It's carbon negative. It pulls CO2 from the air as it cures. Unlike concrete, it breathes, reduces mold, humidity, and energy bills. Hempcrete is fire-resistant, pest-resistant, and non-toxic. Hemp Homes LLC is veteran-owned, locally built, and community-driven. And we're not just making homes. We're creating jobs, empowering landowners, and healing the earth. The future of construction is regenerative. The future is now. We are Hemp Homes LLC. HempHomes.com. Build better, live better, and be better.
Big cough, 420 for 20% off. The Bonfathers got the stash, 420 for 20% off. Make it last. Hand blown glass, hits so clean. SpecialKGlass.net, live the dream.
Think hemp is just weed's boring cousin? Think again. Hemp gets you high? False. It has less than 0.3% THC. That's not enough to get a hamster high. No buzz, but big benefits. Hemp makes housing, clothing, food, fuel, and healing products. Bad for the planet? Nope. Hemp sucks up more CO2 than most trees, cleans soil, and sips water like a minimalist. Hemp = Earth's green cleanup crew. Illegal? Wrong. Industrial hemp's been federally legal in the U.S. since 2018. It's not just legal, it's launching a new green economy. Hemp homes are just a trend? Try again. They're mold-resistant, fire-safe, non-toxic, and built to last. Hemp homes = healthy homes. Ask Harry, build better, live better, be better with hemp.
Native Black Cultivation is a true pioneer in Alabama's cannabis industry. As the first medical cannabis company to harvest in the state, they're committed to producing quality, sustainable cannabis. Native Black Cultivation blends integrity, innovation, and inclusivity to ensure every product from the farm meets the highest standard of quality and safety. Their mission extends beyond cultivation, focusing on social and economic change through education and community engagement. Visit nativeblackcultivation.com to learn more. Native Black Cultivation is a true pioneer in
Hey, Alabama football fans.
Mullins Lobbyist Firm is Alabama's frontline lobbyist team specializing in cannabis, autism, epilepsy, and small business. We fight for you in Montgomery. For information on current and future federal and state legislation, including S. 4226 Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act and S. 980 Industrial Hemp Act, Farm Bill 2024, visit the website mullinslobbyistfirm.com and follow us on social media. Is there a cause or issue you want to see changed or would like to get support for? Let us help you. Email al4medicalcannabisfreedom@gmail.com.
Belief and the law, standing strong, standing tall. From the roots to the rules, we uncover it all. Truth and justice, the plan's divine. CannaBama's here, it's education time.
It's time time for Sweet Home CannaBama, a show that'll answer all your questions, provide accurate information, and dispel the myths of cannabis. And have your specific questions answered by emailing Jennifer@CannaBama.com or text or call 343-0106. And now, for all things cannabis in Alabama, here's your host, Jennifer Boozer.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Jennifer Boozer Stewart, your host, former owner of CannaBama in downtown Mobile, thanks to HB 445 that went into effect July 1st of this year. Our phone lines are still open for the store if you have questions, if you're a customer, or you're looking for a recommendation and on who might still be open. If you're looking for products, you can give us a call, 251-255-5155. And of course, you can follow us on social media. I'm under Jennifer Boozer Stewart, or you can find us under Sweet Home CannaBama on LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. I want to go ahead and get into some serious stuff in the first segment. Our current events section is quite dark this week. More arrests in Alabama. Jimmy Eugene McDowell Jr., a 68-year-old man in Concord, Alabama, outside of Hueytown in Jefferson County. For those of you who don't know, that's generally the Birmingham area. He was arrested last week. An anonymous tip to Crime Stoppers inspired local law enforcement to obtain some drone footage of his property. And they saw that he had 26 cannabis plants growing on his property. He was subsequently arrested and given a $500,000 bond for drug trafficking. And, with the arrests of the two consumers of hemp products with up to 10 years in prison as a sentence for a Class C felony, the only people that are getting arrested more are people who are engaging in child trafficking, sexual abuse, and even the death of a child in this area. I want to point out some, I guess, glaring discrepancies to me and to a lot of people in these situations in the amount of bond that's being given in these arrests. I am never going to say it's okay to break the law. It's not. No matter how ridiculous the laws are, how archaic they are, no matter the fact that there are people all over Alabama that are given licenses to do exactly what Mr. McDowell was doing, and they're encouraged to make lots of money doing it. He was doing it at his home without anyone's permission, and that warranted a $500,000 bond for a man who cannot remotely afford that on his own. But I want to compare that to a couple of other arrests in that same area. Last week, DHR, there was a lady transporting a 3-year-old boy, and she left him in her vehicle, went to a smoke shop, went home, left this little boy in the back of her car for over 5 hours, and sadly, the little boy passed away. And her bond, not even charged with manslaughter yet, her bond was $30,000. There was two different articles I saw today. One, a Fairhope man was arrested for sexual crimes against children. His bond was $90,000. And then there were 6 people in Trussville, another Birmingham area town where they have prohibitionist senators, in a child sexual exploitation ring. And each of those 6 people was bonded at $30,000 to $60,000. And not to mention in Bibb County, a month ago, while there were children being held in a bunker, some of them by their own father, by a group of adults, they were chained to things. They were, I can't even, you know the story. But while that was happening, over a month ago, Senator Weaver, who is the senator in Bibb County, was filing SB1 to once again try to ban hemp-derived THC, put CBD into pharmacies, while all this was happening under the banner of Save the Children. Save the children, save the children. I'm sorry, y'all, but every day we're seeing articles in the news about these terrible, violent, abusive, sexually exploitative things happening to children all over Alabama. And these people are getting $30,000 to $60,000 bonds. And you contrast that with a man growing plants on his own property at $500,000. Who's trying to save the children here? because who was trying to save those children? I see Senator Weaver, again, the one who filed SB 1 for 2026 to go ahead and jumpstart the banning process once again. Now she's trying to bring up legislation that would add the death penalty back for child predators. Once again, being reactive, and instead of being proactive. They knew about that situation in Bibb County since February. Why did it take until July to get those kids out of there and arrest these people? Why are these people being given bond of $30,000, $50,000, even $90,000 for damaging these children beyond repair at such an early age? Some of them were as young as 3 years old. And again, a man is in his home growing plants on his property for medicine, $500,000 bond. Make it make sense, Alabama, because who are you protecting there? I wanted to read someone posted something that made a lot more sense than what I'm rambling on about. It says, what's Birmingham, Alabama up to this week? A DHR worker leaves a 3-year-old in a hot car for hours. She picks up food, stops by a smoke shop, ironically, unloads groceries, leaves the child behind, and the child dies. She's charged with a Class B felony. Bond, $30,000. The child, born while the mother was incarcerated in state custody since birth. Father allowed only supervised visits. Sit with that. Now, a man grows 26 cannabis plants. No victim, no harm, just plants. He's hit with $500,000 bond. Let's be real. One was a fatal act of neglect. The other, cultivating something nature provides. Yet the system punishes the plant and the person growing it far more than the loss of a child's life. And as the mother of a dead child, this sickens me in a way that if you haven't buried your own child, you couldn't possibly fathom. It sickens me. Because cannabis threatens control and corporate profit, the child's death, just another unfortunate error by someone inside the system. The real takeaway, accountability isn't tied to the damage done. It's tied to power. She served the system. He challenged it. And that's what really determines punishment. I don't even know what else to say. I would love to hear from you. If you have something to say, email me, jennabell22@yahoo.com, JENNABELL22@yahoo.com. And if you've never seen the show before, we've been here for 6 years trying to teach the plant what it is, what it does, how it works, how to use it for over 6 years now. The passage of HB 445 has now closed my business, CannaBama, which is what paid for this show all these years. So we're trying to figure out what we're going to do going forward, but we hope that you'll join us every Monday night right here on FM Talk 106.5, on www.fmtalk106.5.com, on YouTube, X, all the things, because we want to talk about the plant. A lot of our time lately has been spent on policy, legislative session, on who voted for who and who voted for what, who said what that wasn't true, all the craziness. And I think that the concerted effort we're trying to take now to vet candidates, along with the help from the Alabama Cannabis Coalition, is a worthwhile effort. We need to know if you are suffering today because you can no longer go to a business like CannaBama and get your products. If you're afraid that if you do, you'll become a felon, and probably end up facing more time than some of these people I just mentioned, give us a call, 251-255-5155. Lord knows I have a lot more time on my hands than I used to, even trying to figure out what my next moves are and trying to look for more opportunities to serve the people of Alabama. But if you just need somebody to talk to, you need a recommendation on a product, or you want to just say, hey, sorry this happened to you, and let me cry on your shoulder, 251-255-5155. I miss my customers. I wish y'all would call me, keep me company, encourage me. Let me encourage you, and know that I am doing everything I can do, along with several others in this state who have only the best interests of the people of Alabama at heart. We are fighting. We are trying to get this changed. We are trying to get these legislators to see reason. And I have the distinct privilege of introducing you to people who are running for office in Alabama, some of them for the first time, who are very outspokenly pro-hemp and cannabis, so that when we go to the polls from mayor on up to governor, you know how to vote for the people who have your best interest at heart. It's not just about business closures, which, I don't know how I'm going to pay my car note next month, but hey, Andy Witt doesn't care about that. But it's about the people of Alabama being given a choice, because we don't ever get a choice, do we? We get to vote for people. Half of them run unopposed, and it's time to change that, Alabama. Follow the Alabama Cannabis Coalition for more information about those candidates, and go and vote. When we come back, we'll meet our guest, Joe Hickey Sr. Stay with us.
The Humble Hemp Shack has been your home for safely sourced hemp products since 2019. Now we are asking for 45 was recently signed into law and will significantly impact Alabamians' right to safe, quality hemp products. This bill takes money from the hands of farmers and small business owners and puts it right back into the hands of dealers. You can help by supporting local hemp businesses and by donating to the legal fund found on thehumblehempshack.com, paid for by the Humble Hemp Shack, LLC.
I was in the hospital with my son for 18 months. When he got injured, I wasn't prepared, but I knew I had to be strong.
When I was told about John's injury, I was in complete shock. I just remember rushing into his room and giving him a big hug and letting him know I was there.
These veterans and families are just a few of the heroes we serve at Homes for Our Troops. For thousands of severely injured veterans, everyday life is filled with barriers.
It was really the little things throughout the house. Counters that you can't roll up to. How to drag my wheelchair down steps.
I want to help, but he is so determined.
At Homes for Our Troops, we build specially adapted custom homes with features like wheelchair access, roll-in showers, and automatic door openers that allow them to function independently and focus on their...
FM Talk 1065.
Hey, Philip.
Oh, hey.
Jarhead in the house.
Yeah, hey, can we get back to you? We got a guest fixing to come on the line, brother.
Yeah, man. Just give me a few minutes, and I'll call you back.
Okay.
You want about cannabis? Here's your host, Jennifer Boozer.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm excited to introduce tonight's guest. Joe Hickey Sr. is a pioneer of the modern hemp movement, recognized for his decades-long work advancing industrial hemp policy and innovation. In 1993, he reestablished the 1942 Kentucky Hemp Growers Cooperative and soon partnered with actor Woody Harrelson to fund sustainable technologies and challenge restrictive hemp laws, famously testing the law by planting seeds in Kentucky, leading to a landmark legal case. Joe played a central role in forming Kentucky's Hemp Task Force, organizing the first international hemp conference, and drafting legislation that became a model for the U.S. hemp programs. He also co-founded Kennex, North America's first commercial hemp processing facility. Through advocacy, education, and coalition building, Joe has been instrumental in transforming hemp into a viable alternative for American farmers. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jennifer. How are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm curious. Tell us real quick the story, because that's what stuck out. Is you and Woody Harrelson did what?
Well, what happened was the legislators, there was a guy, Gatewood Galbraith, who was trying to legalize marijuana, hemp, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he ran for governor, I think 3 times, and ag commissioner. But these legislators just, they liked him, but they didn't like him.
Oh, yeah.
But what they did, they took out, in the federal and all the states legislation, it has a cutout. It says marijuana is this, except for, and it has the exceptions, which is the hemp part.
Right.
And so to piss Gatewood off, I guess, or because he pissed them off, they took that section and deleted it out of the law.
Wow.
So it made hemp illegal. So at the time, Woody had just finished shooting The People versus Larry Flint.
Oh, such a great film.
People don't really know how good it was because I'd met Larry a few times, played cards with him.
Wow.
So when you hear Woody in that thing, that's Larry talking.
Yeah.
I mean, he has Larry down to a T. So
I remember I was a senior in high school when that movie came out.
yeah. So anyway, so he had, he played the guy that was testing the First Amendment.
Right.
And so I got the idea, since that law had been cut out, it was a perfect way to test the law.
Right.
And so Woody and I sat down and talked about it, and we came up with the idea of planting. Woody wanted to play. He actually took 11 seeds out there, to the field when we did it. And the attorney that was with us, when Woody said, I'm going to plant 11 seeds, he says, no, you can't do that. He says, it's a felony if it's above 4 seeds, so you can only plant 4 seeds.
Wow.
So that's how crazy the legislation was.
The arbitrary nature of so much of these laws is maddening to me. You can grow, you can plant 4, but not 5.
Right.
They're seeds.
So I called, we're out there, and we had Ted Turner's. It was TNN back then, I think. They brought the film crew out, and I called the sheriff and reported, a crime in progress. So they come out, and it was funny because Woody held those seeds in his hand, and he said, I got this hemp seed here. I'm going to plant them. And the sheriff's just sitting there, and he puts them down. He'd taken a grubbing hoe and just, dug up a spot that had grass everywhere.
Right.
But he dropped them in the ground and then patted them in. And then the sheriff said, do you realize that you're under arrest? And Woody said, yes, sir. He said, okay, retrieve those seeds. So Woody's down there trying to get to these seeds. And they look, how hemp seeds
they're
look,
tiny.
they look like dirt. Well, they look like dirt.
And they
too.
do. They're camouflaged very well.
Right. And so Woody's down there, and he looks up to the sheriff. He said, I can't find them. So the sheriff said, okay, come on, you're under arrest. And so
that's funny.
That was, but it was great because, we didn't do it. We did it to test the law.
Right.
But the main thing was to bring public awareness to how absurd the law was. And so we had a deal with the prosecutor, and this was set up before we planted it and everything.
Right.
But we had the deal that if we win in court, they were going to, what's the word?
Repeal?
They're going to appeal it. Yeah. And then, so if they win, we were going to appeal it, and then go from the district to the circuit court.
Right.
And then from the circuit court to the Court of Appeals, and then from the Court of Appeals to the Supreme Court. So we just went back and forth till we got the Supreme Court, and it was 4 years of PR. And that's what happened. That's why Woody was found not guilty in 2000. And a friend of mine, he was a former governor of Kentucky. He did the closing arguments for the case. And great guy too. He was governor when Nixon was in.
Really?
So he was a law and order. He was no nonsense dude.
Right.
But he was old enough to remember the hemp growing and everything, and so it was easy.
Right.
And him and I had been friends for a couple of years, 3 or 4 years before that. And so I asked him if he would do the closing arguments, and he said sure. So at the closing arguments, I gave him a hemp bar, and I said, Governor, if you can figure out a way to use this, do it. And so he's up there, and he's, what jury notification is, right? So he's doing jury notification. He was saying to juries, he said, you're the last bastion, you're the last, yours where the rubber meets the road. If there's an unjust law, and the judge was letting me do it. you know, he looked at the judge, and I was like, I cannot believe that judge is. But anyway, he's a governor. What's the judge going to say?
Right. I was going to say, how are you going to argue with a governor?
Right. So Woody's he's talking about, you know, all the law and everything, and then he says, "Ladies and gentlemen," and he reaches down in his pocket in his jacket and pulls out that hemp bar. He said, "I've got a hemp bar here." And he starts to open it up. He said, "With permission of the court." And he didn't look at the judge and say, "Can I have permission?" He just assumed it. He, with permission of the court, you know, takes a bite. And he chews that thing for a minute. And a minute's a long time if you're, you know, sitting there waiting for somebody to talk.
Yeah.
And finally, he takes a big gulp. And he looks back and forth at the jurors. And he's going, "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," he said, "I got it on me and I got it in me." He said, "So if you're going to convict this man right here, you're going to have to convict me too."
Wow.
And you could see the, I mean, it was crazy. So
that's crazy. That's awesome. I wish I could have seen that.
Yeah. So what happened is, then he at the end of it, he went to the, he was looking back at the jurors and everything, and he was going, you know, my esteemed colleague, Tom Hall, the prosecutor, says that Woody's here just to legalize marijuana. And he said, if I thought that for 1 second, he took his hand and slapped it down on the prosecutor's table, and the prosecutor jumped up. You see, everybody's like, he said, "I'd be sitting at this table right here."
Wow.
And then he looked at the jurors. He turned around and walked away and sat down with Woody and I, and didn't say another word. And so they leave, and it wasn't very long. It might have been 30 minutes, maybe. But they came back out, and I looked at my watch. Guess what time it was?
4:20.
Couldn't believe it. And then, so
that's perfect.
I know it. So they're coming out. And the jurors are coming out, and they're looking over our way. And I lean over and I said, "Woody, it's not guilty." He said, "How in the hell could you know whether it's guilty or not?" I said, "Look," I said, they're looking at you when they come out. If they were going to be, if it was guilty, they wouldn't
want to look you in the eye. That's right. No. And he's Woody Harrelson.
Woody's going, "You think so?" And I went, "Yeah." So they said, you know, not guilty. And it was, but what happened though, that set everything up. Because the following year, we were able to go to the legislators and then talk to them. Plus, Woody had paid for, like 2 years earlier, a University of Kentucky poll that showed 68%, or 68% of Kentuckians strongly or somewhat favor allowing farmers to grow hemp. So we were taking that poll from the university, going, "Look, you know," because I went to them early on, and they going, we wouldn't touch hemp with a 10-foot pole because people think it's marijuana."
Right.
It said when you can change, you know, and that's when I knew that what we had to do was public, you know, education.
Education. That's what this show is all about.
So that was what we did for the next 4 years, you know, from 6 years, from 94, when it met with the governor to form the task force, the hemp task force. From then all the way until the bill was passed in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the thing, I had the forethought of adding one sentence to that bill, Jennifer. The last sentence of that bill, the 2001 bill, said, "Kentucky immediately adopts any and all federal rules and regulations pertaining to industrial hemp." And, you know, the legislators aren't going to say anything.
Right.
You know, they don't, you know, I mean, that's innocuous to the bill.
Right.
You know, they're just saying, well, if it becomes legal federally, you know, what the hell?
Right.
So
which they probably assumed wouldn't happen.
Yeah, right. And well, the first bill that we got, the reason we got that bill passed, it was strictly for university research.
Hang on, Joe. Let me interrupt you right there. We've got to go to a commercial break. When we come back, more with Joe Hickey Sr. Stay with us.
FM Talk 106.5, the Gulf Coast Weather Authority, and Dr. Bill Williams.
The Gulf Coast can expect a few showers and thunderstorms tonight. Low temperatures will be in the lower 70s at daybreak. For Tuesday, partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunderstorms, highs in the upper 80s. The outlook for Wednesday, partly cloudy with showers and thunderstorms and highs around 90 degrees. This is meteorologist Dr. Bill Williams for FM Talk 106.5.
I'm Roseanne Haven from WKRG News 5. A deadly one-vehicle crash investigation in Gulf Shores. Police say the driver was arriving at the freestanding emergency room today when the car jumped the curb and went into a retention pond. First responders tried to revive the driver, a 50-year-old woman, but she died. Drivers headed in and out of downtown Fairhope could see smoother traffic sooner than expected. Construction on a major roundabout near the city's iconic flower clock is months ahead of schedule. City engineer Richard Johnson is hoping it will be open by Labor Day. Members of a National Guard unit based out of Foley are preparing to deploy to the Middle East. Their job is to help maintain the peace treaty between Egypt and Israel. The deployment is for 1 year. I'm Roseanne Haven from WKRG News 5. Local coverage you can count on.
The Humble Hemp Shack has been your home for safely sourced hemp products since 2019. Now we are asking for your help. Alabama House Bill 445 was recently signed into law and will significantly impact Alabamians' right to safe, quality hemp products. This bill takes money from the hands of farmers and small business owners and puts it right back into the hands of dealers. You can help by supporting local hemp businesses and by donating to the legal fund found on thehumblehempshack.com, paid for by the Humble Hemp Shack LLC.
Now. We tend not to think about now. We dream about tomorrow, relive yesterday, but sometimes we don't see what's right in front of us. Victory over cancer is in front of us. Right now, cancer research is saving lives. Cancer research funded by the V Foundation is leading to new discoveries and new treatments, and ultimately, one day, victory over cancer. Right now, 1 out of every 2 men and 1 out of every 3 women will get cancer in their lifetime. Now is your moment. You may save someone you love. The V Foundation has the skill, the speed, and the strength to achieve victory over cancer, because today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory. Learn more at v.org.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Welcome back to Sweet Home CannaBama. Now with all the information you want about cannabis, here's your host, Jennifer Boozer.
Welcome back to Sweet Home CannaBama, everybody. Tongue-tied again. That's why I love live radio. Tonight we're talking with Joe Hickey Sr., who has lived quite the life already. I mean, we're talking about stories from the 90s and the early 2000s, getting arrested with Woody Harrelson and breaking the law, fighting it all the way to the Supreme Court. This is fascinating stuff, Joe. I really appreciate your perspective, because so many of us in the hemp industry today have only been around since 2018, including myself. And while it's felt like an instant and a lifetime all at once, we're babies compared to guys like you and Woody. So I really appreciate the long-term perspective. And I know that it has to be incredibly frustrating for someone like you, who has been trying so hard for so much longer than most of us to get this industry on the right track in this country. And I read an article that you wrote about the comparison of how the FDA treats the regulation of tobacco nicotine versus hemp-derived THC. And I thought it was, I knew that big tobacco was a factor in all of these things happening, but we've been so focused on the alcohol industry's now interest and wanting to corner the drink market to make up for alcohol sales that are lost, not coincidentally due to the proliferation of THC products that are available. And it's interesting, just today I saw a video of, I think it's Senator Perry in Texas, talking about how kids in Gen Z That's my son and my daughter. They don't drink. They don't get blackout drunk like we did back in our day, is what he said. And I thought that was interesting. Like, I don't know if he knew he was saying what we already know, which is alcohol's losing money, especially to young people who are making better choices, who grew up with the normalcy of cannabis in the last 10 years or 20 years, really, with the proliferation of medical cannabis going all the way back to Colorado and California. They're not drinking as much. And so, but your perspective on the way that tobacco is regulated versus hemp is, to me, a much better, more, I guess, a more common comparison, because they're both plants that grow out of the ground. They both have medicinal chemicals contained within them, and you can smoke both of them.
Well,
So,
and both of them were mainstream crops here in Kentucky too.
right, that's true. Yeah, yeah.
And
So
I grew up in a tobacco field.
wow.
And my first bad experience, I guess, was dropping tobacco sticks, and but it was early in the morning. There was dew on the tobacco, so I'm going through there, and then all of a sudden I got deathly ill. It was like dry heaving, and but it was tobacco sickness.
Wow.
And a lot of people end up in the hospital over it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the thing about tobacco is there's no fence around the tobacco field. There's nobody out there testing how much nicotine, what percentage of nicotine is in the crop. No, they don't have to have a COA showing that it doesn't have any heavy metals or pesticides or herbicides in it when they sell it. And they don't have to register their crop with anybody.
Wow.
And all of that is just the opposite. And if you're growing a tobacco crop and the government wants to come on your property, they have to get either a search warrant or permission to come on your property.
Right.
If you're growing a hemp crop, they can just walk right in, and they don't need any kind of search warrant. They don't need anything.
Mhm.
So I thought the analogy right there was really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they are, I mean, when you think about it that way, and I've never, beyond the fact that you can smoke it, I've never thought of it in those terms until I read what you wrote. And I was like, oh my God, this is, the processes of growing it naturally, supposedly anyway, and making sure that it's fit for human consumption and all of those things. I mean, the harvesting of it and the drying and curing process, all of that. There are so many similar components. Unlike alcohol, everybody wants to compare THC to alcohol. It's two totally different worlds. There's nothing about them that is the same. One is intoxicating and one is impairing, but that does not make them even remotely the same. So this is a closer comparison.
It's the same thing with corn and whiskey. The whiskey is a highly regulated and taxed crop. I mean, beverage.
Right.
But they've got to have wheat or rye or corn, in there to make it. But they don't bother the farmers doing that. But to me, the bigger picture is it's the overregulation and the roadblocks that have been put up. We filed a lawsuit against the DEA in '96, I think, and we got thrown out of court pretty quickly.
Yeah,
because they weren't having it. And then when they allowed in the 2014 hemp bill, because Kentucky was trying to bring seed in here for the farmers to grow it, because then the DEA came in and says, no, farmers can't grow it. And the university don't have the land and the ability to grow test crops. They do small scale, but not
right.
So the farmers were agents of the farm, the the ag commissioners.
Right.
We were, so the DEA came in and says, no, you can't do that. And so then we had to threaten them with court. And then finally they capitulated. And then they said they weren't going to release seeds that was coming in from Canada because we didn't have, or the universities didn't have a permit. And my argument was, it's legal. We don't need a permit.
Right.
It's not legal.
Right.
But the person that was the assistant to the ag commissioner, we all met in Louisville with the federal people in front of a judge, and the judge, after hearing everything, looked at the DEA guys and says, "You better go back there and figure this out."
Right.
They were looking at them and not us.
Right.
And he was basically telling them, "I'm going to rule against you guys."
Right. Well, he obviously had no choice, but he obviously didn't want to rule in your favor. And he was telling them, you better go fix this so I don't have to rule in their favor next time. Right.
Well, but what happened, what screwed the whole thing up is the secretary for the ag commissioner went back and we sit back there, and the DEA wanted them to get a permit. And so that was finally, they said, to me, I would have said, no,
right.
We're not going to get a permit. But she said, yeah, okay, we'll sign up and we'll send a permit in to get it.
Yeah.
And so that set a precedence right there that screwed everything up for a while.
Right.
And so then the DEA went after hemp foods, and they said hemp foods are not legal. And then so a friend of mine, attorney out in San Francisco, Patrick Goggin, filed a federal lawsuit against the FDA or the DEA, and won. So that made it legal for hemp food.
Right.
And then when we had Kennex up in Canada, we were shipping hemp seed into the United States to the bird company. They found out it wasn't sterilized, so they threatened to go after us in Kennex. And then so we had to sue the DEA again.
Wow. To
basically stop them. They had already, and then what they did, they got the customs to start stopping our matting. We had a matting line. We were sending matting to Indiana Biocomposites, and they were making car parts out of it.
Really?
So they got the DEA got the customs to start messing with us, and they were on-time manufacturer. So it had to be there on a certain date. And so we lost that contract, and then we lost the birdseed contract, and that's why we end up shutting Kennex down.
Wow.
But we brought seed back that we developed up there. I'd taken seed from Kentucky, and it was a China Minkin that was like the best variety that Lester Dewey, that was his pride. And it was a fiber quality thing, variety. And we took it to up to Kennex in Canada and crossed it with a Hungarian variety and came up with Denny. So, when the DEA was giving fits about bringing stuff in, I smuggled it in from Canada with the help of FedEx. And so we were able to plant the first hemp crop in the United States. And the funny part of it was back in the field that we had collected original genetics out of. We planted it back in that same field. So it was like a homecoming for that.
Wow.
Genetics.
Wow. That's so crazy. Boy, you've got, I bet we could sit here for 5 hours and never say the same thing twice.
Yeah, well, and look, the FDA has said you can't feed animals any more than 2 ppm that has THC in it of higher than 2 ppm.
Yeah.
And that's going to kill the feed industry.
Right, because you said that was equivalent to 2 inches over a span of nearly 16 miles.
Yes.
What in the world?
That far in almost 16 miles. And some people say, well, let's get it up to 10 inches. So now let's go to 10 inches in 16 miles.
Right. Like that's a huge. That's kind of like 40% increase in poison control calls. Really, from 2 to 5? I mean, come on now.
I'm trying to figure out a legal path to suing the FDA. And if I'm able to figure out a way of doing it, I've got a couple attorneys looking at it. But if we can figure out a path to not get thrown out the very first time we go to court, I told them I just want to make it to the second hearing.
Right. Okay. When we come back in just a moment, we'll finish up with Joe Hickey Sr. Stay with us.
The Humble Hemp Shack has been your home for safely sourced hemp products since 2019. Now we are asking for your help. Alabama House Bill 445 was recently signed into law and will significantly impact Alabamians' right to safe, quality hemp products. This bill takes money from the hands of farmers and small business owners and puts it right back into the hands of dealers. You can help by supporting local hemp businesses and by donating to the legal fund found on thehumblehempshack.com, paid for by the Humble Hemp Shack, LLC.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the AHSAA, are the 138,000 high school sports students in Alabama. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible. Because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
Welcome back to Sweet Home CannaBama. Now, with all the information you want about cannabis, here's your host, Jennifer Boozer.
Welcome back, everybody. Tonight we're talking with Joe Hickey Sr., and we're talking about the comparison of how the FDA regulates nicotine versus THC. And basically, this article that you wrote, Joe, you're asking the questions. Why are tobacco farmers exempt from regulations that are placed on hemp farmers? Background checks, registration fees, disclosure of locations, testing requirements, crop destruction for noncompliance. Why are FDA regulated cigarettes permitted to contain hazardous substances, tar, formaldehyde, arsenic, benzene, ammonia, hydrogen, cyanide, lead, and cadmium without enforceable limits? Why do federal agencies continue to allow the commercial production and sale of the most addictive substance known to man, while simultaneously creating arbitrary and capricious regulatory restrictions on industrial hemp? Why isn't tobacco subjected to the same intensity of regulatory scrutiny imposed on industrial hemp? I mean, we know that tobacco, nicotine in cigarettes kills, 500,000 people a year in the country?
Yep, that's about right.
And hemp, 0.
Yep.
And what you mentioned
Probably
before,
saves a lot of lives.
right? Well, I know several. I know lots of them actually. I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something. Look, I don't know if it's the heat, the perimenopause, or the stress. But thank God for industrial hemp products that you used to be able to buy at CannaBama. I helped somebody today. I had a little bottle of CBD oil and a couple of gummies in my bag, and somebody that I was working with today, she was in pain, and I said, try this tincture. It's just full spectrum CBD oil that I use. Don't leave home without it. And we sat and talked, and about 20 minutes in, she's like, man, I really feel so much better. And it was like, oh, I haven't been able to do this. This was what we did 7 days a week for 7 years. And to have to tell people, I'm sorry, I cannot help you. It's terrible. It's awful, especially knowing what you could actually do for them. And one thing you talked about earlier about how they can come onto a hemp field anytime they want. Alabama's implemented that with HB 445 and allowed for warrantless seizures. So that's a very scary thing and makes me, on one hand, glad that I closed, because now I'm not going to be subject to that. But I mean, come on, when did we not need some sort of probable cause? What are we doing just throwing away the normal due processes of these situations? And why are we allowing something like tobacco that kills 500,000 people a year, and alcohol that I know the stats on that, it's like 488 people a day in the country.
Crazy.
And yet you can buy, now they want you to go to the liquor store in Alabama to get your hemp products.
Well, and then the FDA allows more Roundup, more mercury, I think the same amount of lead as THC, but like I think lead is, I'm trying to think, lead is like 20, and then Roundup is like 40 ppm.
Wow.
So they allow all this, and what I'm saying is it's selective regulatory control.
Right. Well, I mean, let's be honest, Joe. You and I both know that what comes out of that plant can put the alcohol industry out of business as an alternative and as something that people use to get off of alcoholism. I have helped the first addict I ever helped was an alcoholic. And he will tell you to this day that he would be dead if he hadn't learned from me what to do for himself with this plant.
Well, Gatewood, he said, when he got out of the army, he'd go into a bar and pick out the biggest guy and just hit him.
Wow.
And somebody said, you ought to be smoking some weed.
Yeah.
And so he started smoking, and he never looked back, never took another drink, and then decided he was going to go to college, get a law degree, and work on legalizing. And that was his whole life's journey.
Wow. It's that impactful. I was 3 years in recovery from an opioid addiction. My dealers wore white coats. I had prescriptions for my drugs of choice. And I would never go back to that. Never, never, never. I would never. I'm 10 years and almost 10 months clean from that. And to be able to take what I have learned and give it to other people, provide them a source, and then watch them change their own lives. There is not a single day of work on this planet better than that. And Alabama has essentially stripped that from me and many, many others, and taken away that thing, that bridge back to freedom, that bridge back to sobriety, the bridge back to a life worthwhile. I find it disgusting. And like I was saying, I don't know if you heard me before I introduced you. We've got, they're giving this man that grew 26 plants $500,000 bond, and they're giving people that are abusing and killing children $30,000 bond in the state of Alabama. And all the while, under the banner of Save the Children, they've decimated hemp. It makes no sense, but you and I both know we are a threat to big pharma. We are a threat to the alcohol industry. We are a threat to the tobacco industry. All three of those things are some of the top killers of people in the U.S. every single day. And nobody's under any impression that that's not true. We all know it can and will kill you.
It's a shame we can't go back to the early 70s when if you got caught growing marijuana, it was a $500 fine and 6 months suspended sentence, no matter if you had 10 plants or 10,000 plants.
Right. And what has happened since then, besides the war on drugs and the Controlled Substances Act, and the fact that medicine went from nonprofit to for-profit. I mean, those all coincide. And I tell people every day, medicine is a business. And if you get the information that you need to fix your own health on the first visit to a doctor, how's he going to pay for his second home in Vail and his mistress and his kid in rehab? I mean, has it gotten out of control enough yet?
Well, I think if people want to look and get a real good idea of what happened, is one of the articles I've written has a timeline, and it goes through, you know, you can see where Anslinger came in and started going against it. At the same time, Henry Ford and George Washington Carver started the Chemurgy movement. And then, I mean, all this stuff was happening at the same time.
Right.
The hemp industry was starting to grow. And then Hearst started his campaign,
Yellow journalism with the DuPont brothers.
But if someone wants to go on LinkedIn and go through those articles that I've written, they'll find that timeline.
Yeah.
And it gives you a pretty clear picture. You know, they say, you know, if you look if you read between the lines, you can tell what happened.
Right.
You know, it's not even hidden.
No,
You know,
they
it's
don't
right
even.
there.
No, it's the same as now. They're like smirking and saying stuff that they know is just absolutely ridiculous. But it's like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know, it's insulting. It's insulting.
Well, I think, you know, the FDA and any of these agencies that are causing, you know, the industry to be, you know, stymied at this point,
right, need
to be exposed and called out. You know, whether it's in a legal challenge or an editorial.
Yeah. Well, that was my next thing is, you know, what can we do about this? I mean, I know you mentioned legislative action. Obviously, there are lots of us out there just beating the street and just really doing what we can. And we're trying to call on the public to email and call and all that. But there's only so much you can do against the massive amounts of lobby money in legislation. The only real hope I see, especially in a state like Alabama where there are no voter initiatives, we don't get to vote on issues. We get to vote on people. And here, half of them, 2/3 of them even run unopposed. They've been here 30, 40, 50 years. They do what they want and they laugh in your face. And we've got to get people voting. We've got a dismal voter rate in this state. And there are whole communities where it's less than 30%. It's crazy.
Well, I think it goes deeper than that too, because you can vote on these folks and then they go up there and then in 2 years they've got to get elected again. So the first thing they do is they got to go look for money, and then they don't have to look very far because the people that have the money are looking for these guys.
Yeah.
And they you know,
we're running out of time,
very-
Joe. I'm so sorry to cut you off, honey. We are out of time. We've got to go. Thank you so much for being here with us. Join us next week when we talk
Okay.
about the
you.
mayoral races. Thank you, Joe. Good night.